Hi, everybody. Jon Harris here, managing partner with Fortune Management. This is the 21st Century Dentistry podcast, and I am pleased to have with me today a gentleman who most of you may know. He is an enthusiast for the dental industry, he's a serial entrepreneur, and just all things marketing for the most part, a wealth of knowledge, and a credible resource for our network around the country. So with that, I'd like to introduce everybody to Mr. Fred Joyal, and give him an opportunity to kind of give us some insight into his background and what got him to this point in his career.
Thank you, John. Yeah. So my real claim to fame is back in 1986, a friend of mine and I started 1-800-DENTIST back when advertising was still fairly new for dental practices. And we started spending money on television advertising and recruiting dentists, and turned it into the largest dentist referral service in the country, and sold it about 7 years ago as Google finally crushed us. Basically. Right. But it was an amazing run and yielded so much benefit. And I enjoyed working with the dental industry so much. And of course, then eventually got hooked up with Fortune Management. And that was just all teed off with a phone call from Bernie Stoltz, the CEO. He said, I think you and I need to get to know each other. And it was the spark of a long and beautiful friendship. And also got to learn a lot about the difference Fortune makes in all of these practices, and meet so many of their clients. Mm-hmm. And there's twists and turns along the way. And, in the business world, you don't go 25, 26 years in a business without some pretty wild stuff happening. But we weathered it all and created a great culture. We believed in culture way before people even talked about it. That was primary for me and my partner. Was we wanted a great place to go to work every day, because we had worked at places we didn't want to go. And we didn't want that to be where we had to go every day and just do it for the money. So we made it so our core values were simple: great place to go to work every day, everybody wins, and profitable. But in that order, we never made profitable sacrifice our integrity, and we never made money more important than making it a great place to work, where we took care of our people. We had health care for our people. We were constantly promoting from within. One of my favorite things to talk about 800-DENTIST is we had 2 floors. We had the call center on one floor, and the operations and the sales and marketing and finance and everything all on the second floor. And there were all of these stickers on the people on the second floor that said, "I started in the call center." So it was very cool. There were VPs who started in the call center, and actually one of our CEOs started in the call center. So we grew people, and that's kind of what I found the most satisfying thing in business, was to be the kind of leader that elevated people, that made them realize they were capable of more than they thought, and start to chase that capability and push their boundaries, which led to all the other stuff that I'm doing as well, the books and Superbold. And now I'm CEO of TruBlu Social Smiles, which is a video testimonial platform that we launched back in November. Mm-hmm. So plenty of stuff there, John.
Yeah, no, we went through, or with our newest division at Fortune, F50, we spent a lot of time, in more, I hate to use the word like higher level, but by higher level, it's more of a 30,000 foot perspective opposed to a 10-foot perspective. So you've got the practice level, then you've got the enterprise level that consists of multiple entities at the practice level. And so we talk a lot about things like funding and, earnouts and merger and acquisition as a growth strategy, and organic growth, strategic partnerships, EBITDA, which is a terminology that's thrown around quite a bit, and a lot of people don't understand that. I'm curious, with your ventures with some of the businesses that you've owned prior, maybe with 1-800-Dentist, what experience do you have with like going through funding rounds, like VC rounds or private equity? A lot of these guys are looking, everybody's got a different path forward, but a lot of these guys are looking for either just bank financing to acquire 1 or 2 additional locations. And there's a point at which the bank just is not willing to take on more risk. And these guys with bigger aspirations obviously then lean on private equity. So with your experience, what kind of insight could you provide us there in terms of how to better posture their business for funding? Or if they are aspiring large entities, does it make sense for them to grow slower organically? Or if they've got a short timeline and they're trying to roll up into a bigger DSO, what should they expect with private equity?
So the first thing I'm going to pick out of that is you can grow too slowly and you can grow too quickly. Mm-hmm. There's a zone within which you don't want to tip over and you don't want to get so slow that you fall behind the market or you miss a lot of opportunities. So you need a little rheostat on that to control your ambition. And the reading that tells you the temperature of the situation is, do you feel like you're working harder for the same amount of money or less? And that becomes a measurement of either you're taking on too much or you're not delegating enough. Because all the great entrepreneurs I know, it was the layer below them of the people that made everything happen, and that was where their success came from. It takes, Steve Jobs was brilliant, but what happened was he would push his engineers to execute his idea and just say, it can be better, it can be better, it can be better. And it would always be better. The marketing, the packaging, the innovation in general would be better. So there's that speed that you have to watch. And it's one of the worst things that can happen to you in business is you're extremely well funded, because you end up throwing money at problems instead of creativity. And and a lot of times it masks the problem until it's a much bigger problem later and you don't have the cash to solve it, or cash is not the solution anymore. So we were self-funded. We borrowed some family money, and then we had a few people who wanted to work with us, but also wanted some equity, and we let them buy in. And that was about 15 years into the business. And then we finally brought in private equity. And the mistake we made is we gave up majority control when we did it. And my advice to people is the only time you give up majority control is when you're cashing out, so that you can walk away and let them train wreck your business or grow it, whatever they're going to do. Because in my case, what they did is they train wrecked it. And in part, not because they were trying to break it apart or something like that and just clean it out for money. It's just that they didn't have a vision for where the industry was going, and they wouldn't listen to me on where it was going anymore. They decided to listen to outside advice, and brought in a different CEO, and he didn't believe in culture at all, and that was the demise of the business right there, because we interacted with dental practices and with patients. And when somebody's looking for a dentist, that's a very emotional choice. So what we projected over the phone was critical. And our interactions with the front desk people, who are primary contact, was critical. They had to, and they really got close on a first name basis with the practices that were members of ours. We only had, we had less than 5,000 members at our peak. And but they would say, "Oh, Sophie, yeah, I've got another patient for you," and that made the difference of Sophie getting that patient into the office or not. And when you started to treat people like their only job was to make private equity wealthy, they stopped committing to the job. They stopped doing it with the same enthusiasm and passion. And so it was hard for me to watch the culture disappear. So, and there's good people with good money out there, but if it forces you to give control, then you have to be thinking emotionally. You have to disconnect them from the business, in my mind. And private equity is only good when things are going well, because they've written an agreement that basically will allow them to take control if you start losing enough money. They're all going to write it that way. And there's all sorts of complications in this. One of the great things that a lot of people don't understand is this little thing called the liquidation preference, which is when they invest their money, they create a preference that they are not just first money out. Their first money out, if they put it before the percentage split. So let's say they bought 25% of your company for $20 million. So now there's a split that's coming, and you sell the company now for $50 million. So they're taking their 20 out of the 50. So now there's 30, and now they're taking 25% of that 30. Mm-hmm. That's a big difference than a 75-25 split, because $20 million disappeared from the transaction.
Right.
So, and you can be at a point where your business is only worth what they put into it. In which case they get it all and you don't get anything. And I've seen this happen to people. Now, obviously, optimistically, you want them to sell your business for $100 million, and they take their 20 and you guys split 80. That feels fine. But doesn't always happen. I mean, that's more an anomaly. People think that, all these businesses sell for giant multiples. The average business sells for a lot of times almost just what the investment was, the outside investment was, because the business suddenly becomes mismanaged, or the approach of the business shifts to the point where money becomes such a priority and profit becomes such a priority that the customers start disappearing. Mm-hmm. Long answer, but we could talk for an hour and a half just about private equity. But if you're going out for money, be very tight on the books. You need to have all your numbers in order, and you want to take as little money as possible. Don't say, because sometimes they'll want to back up the truck. They'll say, we want to give you $25 million to do whatever you want with. They don't really mean that, mm-hmm. do whatever you want thing, but they'll say that. And you technically only need about 10. You should be taking the 10, mm-hmm. because the next round that you take, you will have grown the business more. And if you need the other 15, you're going to give up less stock. Whereas if you take the whole 25 now, you could end up giving up 45% of your company, and you get yourself close to that losing control 50% number where you're suddenly 49 or 48%. Everything changes at that point, because now there's a board that controls you, and there's shareholders that have more voting power than you.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on? I've got my thoughts, but what are your thoughts on what makes the dental industry so attractive to PE? I mean, I know it's just you've got built-in demand. It's a profitable business model. I mean, you almost have to try not to succeed, not to do well in dentistry. I mean, frankly, I know some markets are more competitive than others, and I don't mean that to be derogatory in any sense of the word. I know there are practices out there that struggle or a little on the lower side of the curve, than others. So, but what is it that you think makes dentistry so attractive to private equity?
It's the contribution margin, and so which is another term. Basically, dentistry has high fixed cost and low variable costs. So once you beat the fixed cost in a month, your profitability runs 75 or 80% on everything else you do. It's a very, very unusual business model. Mm-hmm. I mean, with 800 dentists, I was run between 12 and 15% profit, 12, 15% EBITDA a year. And it didn't matter if I was making 20 million or 50 million, it was still right around 12 to 15. You take a dental practice that's making 500,000 and have it suddenly start producing $1 million, all of a sudden the dentist is taking several $100,000 more out of that practice. That's a beautiful business model. And that's what's so appealing to private equity is they believe they can grow a business and pull 20% out of it and still have it be like a profitable dental practice. Mm-hmm. And that's good money. If you can earn 20% on your money, they want to hang with that for a long time. That's a good yield. So and as you said, a dental practice can succeed doing almost everything wrong. Mm-hmm. So as you start to do stuff right, and that was the other thing that I learned with Fortune Management is how quickly you could have an impact on a practice just by putting some systems in place and regulating certain things and eliminating certain things, but basically just making it run like a business. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, when you've got the culture right and the scheduling right and the money management right and the marketing right, all of a sudden the business really is yielding a very nice profit margin, and you can bonus your team, which makes you grow even more. And so and the beauty of it is none of it's a mystery. Mm-hmm. When I coach entrepreneurs now, they're basically inventing a business from scratch. Right. So I'm trying to help them decode what the heck is going to happen in the future. Everything to run an extremely successful dental practice is already known. Yeah. Right. It's just not being implemented. That's a huge difference. Now, it doesn't mean that private equity is coming in and making that happen. A lot of times they come in with no knowledge of the industry at all, or no support for executing that success. Mm-hmm. But there's a lot of really well-run DSOs at this point, really large organizations that are just extremely well-run, high tech, take great care of people, and hundreds of practices and good jobs for the dentist if they want a job. And then a lot of them, they're sharing in the ownership.
Yeah, I can appreciate the impact that we're able to make because I've been financially comfortable and I've slept in my truck. So I've seen both sides, and I can really appreciate how transformational it is for somebody emotionally when they go from, really just barely getting by or not getting by to like being at a place of peace. Like that's substantial. And so I'm grateful to be in a position where we have the opportunity to have that kind of an impact in a lot of different ways. Another thing I think is attractive to anybody I think this is what makes dental practice ownership attractive. I think it's what makes the dental industry attractive to PE. But when you start, obviously Fortune focuses a lot on organic growth, building an active patient base, expanding your clinical suite, improving treatment acceptance, all that kind of stuff. But there's whole other categories of growth that most people just neglect, at least to some extent or altogether. And I think it's because a lot of them are either they don't know enough about it to know that it's just as safe of an opportunity as, hiring a coach and, working on recare. But it can have an even bigger impact. And that is the growth and cost synergies that you are able to tap into with merger acquisition, and how you can fund a lot of those transactions completely zero cash out of pocket. It costs you $0 to execute a transaction like that, and it can double your take home overnight. And then the other one is strategic partnerships. And it seems as though private equity is a little bit more business savvy than your typical dentist owner operator. And they understand those concepts and they really capitalize on them well. It's a lot. I see some DSOs I think they've learned where their shortcomings were. They struggled with the cultural piece, and they really did well with systems and training, and valuations and really creative ways to lock in associates. So they're really good at that piece, not as good at the culture piece. And so now they're learning from that, and they're becoming even more competitive than they were. And so it makes it a really interesting time, because you've got, like you said, all the information is out there. So it's not a secret. 95% of it you can probably find on Google, but it's just making a really interesting scenario, because obviously DSOs were really having a heyday with acquisitions, and they were growing. And then the economy started to turn a little bit. Valuations were at an all-time high. Private practice owners trying to compete with DSO offers on acquisitions was impossible unless they had $300,000 or $400,000 in the bank. And now that's starting to turn and head the opposite direction. And you've got DSOs liquidating low-hanging fruit, practices that are underperforming, trying to free up capital, preparing for a potential recession. And it really creates an interesting dynamic for your private practice owners to expand the lower market.
Yeah, because there are absolutely economies of scale when you go from 1 to 2 to 3 practices. Just think about the difference between having a centralized call handling and scheduling with those practices, where you can do it like 7 to 7 every day. I was talking to this company that does online appointing. So they put the schedule in the website for people to appoint. 80% of the appointments made online happen after hours, when an office would be closed. Mm-hmm. So it's like right there. As we say, all of these things are so simple. Expand the amount of time that you answer the phone, or that somebody can schedule an appointment. Maybe you don't even have to answer the phone. Maybe you're just, letting your software let the person make an appointment, like Open Table. It's an open table world right now. People are doing this stuff at 9 o'clock. That's when I'm doing it. 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night. A lot of times I'm making a dinner reservations. I'm making plane flights. I'm not doing it during my business day. Right. And so simple things like that, that you can start to apply. Obviously with one of the things that the sister company to Fortune Management is TruBlu Direct is to bring in the purchasing economies, to the private practice people without them having to become part of a DSO. Because the DSOs have a lot of negotiating power, a lot of leverage with the suppliers and the manufacturers and the insurance companies. And so TruBlu is working to solve that for the individual practices, which makes it even easier for you to just add a second office, a third office, or just buy the patient base. It's important to know that you don't have to necessarily buy a practice. If you look at some of one of the biggest DSOs, Pacific Dental, they don't buy any practices. Mm-hmm. They build every single one of them because they want them a certain way. They have CEREC and cone beam in every single practice because they know of the efficiency that provides them and the profitability that it creates. So they don't want some office that some guy's been, bought from somebody else 20 years ago and has all different equipment and doesn't, the ergonomics aren't right and the workflow isn't right in the place. They know what the ideal structure of a dental practice is, and that's what they build. And so know that you don't necessarily have to, you may be more interested in just a patient base incorporated into your own practice, or combining your practice and another practice into a different space, a bigger space, maybe a multi-specialty practice. I mean, we could talk quite a bit about the value of that when you've got 4 or 5 GPs and 4 or 5 specialists all in the same facility. That's an incredibly successful model. That is a sustainable model for decades and decades.
Yeah, and I think you just provided a blueprint for for a dental CEO to be successful. I mean, all a CEO does essentially is find out what the customer wants and then figures out how to meet that need elegantly and quickly.
Yeah.
Right. And we know based on research, I believe that your organization did, that consumers want convenience, affordability, and comfort.
Yeah.
So if you can just ask yourself so manufacturers aren't driving the development and creation of technology to make more money, right? They're looking at the same data that you are. They're looking at what consumers want, and then how can we create a piece of technology that helps dentists, meet that need. So the dentists are the manufacturer's customer, and they understand what the dentist needs to be able to do to satisfy their customer. And they create CEREC, and they create Solea laser, and they create cone beam. And so if you look at, and I'd be curious to get your thoughts on this too, because I really value your perspective and opinion. From what I can tell, VC I know is always good. I've gone through VC rounds, so I know how they prioritize interest, and I know how they look at, you might be interested in going in one industry and they steer you in a different direction because the market's bigger, penetration's a little bit easier, barriers to entry are lower. And so if you want to know where the dental industry is going to be in 10 years, look at where the medical industry is now, right? Because you're looking at a $500 billion industry compared to a $50 billion industry. It's two completely different animals. The technology companies and entrepreneurs that, create ideas and, create technology, and they want to go to the market with that, and they get funding to go to the market with that, they're going to be, the providers of the funding are going to steer them in the direction of the bigger market because it's easier money. And then once they've gotten so far into that market that they're going, okay, now we can go to dentistry. And it happened with the patient communication technologies. It happened with cone beam. 3D imaging was in medical way before it came to dental. You've got AI is in medical now. And if you don't think AI is coming to dentistry, you're sleeping on the job, so it's interesting. Would you say that's fairly accurate?
Yeah, there's a lag time just because it's worth investing in the medical industry more than it is worth investing in the dental industry, because eventually most of the medical industry is looking for that upgrade. They're sitting there saying, well, we could do 8 surgeries instead of 6 a day with this technology. And so that's automatic. So what if the technology is $400,000? They can run a spreadsheet and say 9 months it's paid for itself. And after that, we're up. Dentists don't do a lot of these calculations. You hear it all the time. That's really expensive. It's like, no, a Rolex is expensive, right? A Maserati is expensive. A cone beam is an investment in better care, more affordable care, faster delivery of that care.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's only an expense if you don't use it. An $80,000 water lathe is an expense if you park it. But if you could pay for it with 3 frenectomies a month, and that's, that when you think about stuff like that and you start to say, what are the bigger companies? Why are they doing it? Why would Pacific Dental have CEREC and cone beam in every brand new practice? Are they crazy? Do they just like to buy stuff? I don't think so. I know those guys. They have data for everything, and it's telling them this is this is how you deliver better dentistry faster.
Yeah.
And can do it more affordably and be more profitable.
Yeah. That's a mistake I see a lot of people. I necessarily wouldn't call it a mistake. I would just call it a different decision that I see a lot of people make is tripping over dollars to save pennies.
Yeah.
And so if you look at any 50-year period of time in the history of the stock market, I just had this conversation with a client last night. Any 50-year period of time in the history of the stock market, it's returned 8%. So 8% is comfortable. The reason you get into business ownership, aside from the quote unquote freedom and autonomy, right?
Yeah.
is the ability to get a higher return on your money, right? If you know what you're doing and you buy a business, you can get 20, 30% year over year. If you make the right decisions and invest in the right places and all that kind of stuff. So if you buy a cone beam, at 5% interest, maybe that was a year or so ago, but if you buy a cone beam at 5% interest, but it's going to grow your restorative department by 33%, which is going to equate to about 15 to 16% total practice growth just by putting the machine in there, doing what you're already doing, and just having that technology instead of 2D imaging. You've got a 15% increase in revenue, a 5% hit for the first 5 years on the payment. If you do the math, you're netting 10 just on that part alone. So that makes sense. Like that's a pretty easy thing to figure out. Now, like you said, if you just park it in the corner and you don't use it, or if you've got a hygienist that doesn't want to take x-rays and you don't want to, coach her and lead her, that's one thing. But as far as apples to apples, technology's there for a reason, and the industry is headed in that direction for a reason. And it's because it's allowing providers to provide more access to care, make it more affordable and more efficient. And quite frankly, or not quite frankly, this is reality. What studies show now is that human beings trust technology more than they do other human beings now.
Yeah.
So if you've got technology in place, that adds to the comfort layer, the layer of comfort that's present. It's interesting to see what's happening there.
Yeah, well, it's even getting to the point now where AI is going to be examining radiographs, much more precisely than and then coming up with a diagnostic recommendation based on what is not at all visible to the human eye, right, and comparing it with millions of other radiographs at the same time. It's like this, when machines learn from the data that they accumulate. We can only accumulate so much data personally before we're on overload, and we don't come to the right conclusions because we've added too much information to ourselves. But computers and AI they devour information. It doesn't. The more it has, the smarter it gets. Yeah. The more we have, the dumber we get.
Right. They're certainly a lot more efficient with that than we are.
Yeah.
So
you don't have to be on the bleeding edge of technology, but you can't lag anymore because stuff shifts quickly. Something like COVID comes along and look at all these. Look at how quickly virtually every business now is touchless in terms of how you pay.
Yeah.
It's just adapted to that fact. And it's more secure than swiping a credit card. It's certainly more secure than a signature. Is there anything more ridiculous than signing a credit card slip? It's like, who's checking that signature? It's going to be anybody, right? That signs that.
Who signs the back of their credit card to validate it? And then if they do.
Yeah, does the guy even look at it? And if he saw it didn't look the same, would he say anything? But that's just one thing, is like we're in a world now where things happen that are incredible accelerants. COVID being an amazing example of all of the things, the dentists who adapted quickly to new procedures and virtual appointments is it's virtual consultations. So an amazing example, because 3 years ago, you would, if you asked me, I'd say, I don't think you can do virtual consultations in dentistry. But now people who do them are finding it's incredibly effective to do a virtual consultation. It's attracting patients from a greater distance.
Yeah.
It's building a trust value. You can't do any treatment, but you can start a relationship and and attract people where they feel safe, which is in a video environment.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great point. So you're one of the advisors on the F50 board. And so you deal with a lot of our higher profile, larger entity, dental CEOs across the country. You are a serial author. I'm an aspiring author myself. Brittany and she's got a TED Talk scheduled in April. And so I had been planning to go through HPS. And when she got that scheduled, I was like, you need to go through this with me. So we made the investment to go through that together. We're actually flying out to Philadelphia on Sunday to go to the second, in-person meeting. So really excited about that. And you travel around the country and do keynotes and speak. And so I admire the path that you're on, because I aspire to be in the same place at some point in my career. If I understand correctly, I've heard a little bit of your story when you spoke about Superbold at the last F50 or Platinum meeting. You come across as a very extroverted, confident, inspirational person. Am I correct in that you didn't always used to be that type of personality?
No, I built this Fred, basically. Shy Fred is dead, but Shy Fred was my predominant personality growing up and even going through college and everything. And I had to figure out a way out of it. And what I did learn, which I didn't know or believe in my youth, was that you can learn to be bolder. You can systematically grow your boldness. And here's the great secret that I learned is that people think, well, I'd be bolder, but I'm not confident enough. And I thought, yeah, that's how I behaved. I'm underconfident, so I'm not going to try this. What I found is bold action is what actually creates the confidence. Mm-hmm. So you may not feel confident, but you go anyway. And you discover something about yourself and you push yourself into your discomfort zone and something happens. You maybe fail, but you eventually develop this desire to try and fail rather than not try. The not trying gnaws at you. The trying and failing goes, well, I took a swing and it was a swing and a miss. But what's in that? I really wanted to meet that actor, and I walked up and I went, "Hey, can I take a selfie with you?" And he went, "Like, get away from me." And so I walked up and I asked him, but I just asked the wrong thing. I just need to go up and say, "I really admire your work, and I just wanted to thank you for all the pleasure you gave me." What's he going to do now? He's going to shake my hand, and before you know it, he's going to say, "You want to take a selfie?" But I learned by boldly acting, even though it's like, there's Tom Hanks. I want to go talk to him. And so even though I don't feel confident, I act anyway, and it builds your confidence. And so I eventually realized that boldness is a superpower. And it's, if you're not using it, you're shrinking your dreams, and you're thinking that you'll get to them eventually, when actually what you get to every day aggregates to something, and what you don't disintegrates. This from the weightlifting, the weight training that you're doing, the bodybuilding that you're doing, is like these things aggregate or atrophy depending on where you spend your time, what you do every day. And so I encourage people to be bolder in chasing their dreams. I challenge them, I support them, but I encourage them to do that, because the clock is running. And you will be rewarded. The universe will reward you for stepping up and taking risks and trying things. And bold people say, I don't even know what's going to happen, but I'm going in.
Yeah.
And something unusual happens, something unexpected happens because they went in. And so it's like after a while, you don't even have an agenda. You just say, I'm gonna go see what happens. People and you start to say, yeah, why not do that instead of why do that? And you stop listening to the voices in your head that are slowing you down and stopping you and telling you you're not good enough, smart enough, attractive enough to do or deserve that. Everybody deserves a great life, but you have to step up. You have to take action to make that happen. Nobody's going to bring it to you.
Yeah. It's really interesting that you say that, because that's a big part of that's the premise and the speech in the book that I'm working on with HPS. There's a scripture that says, for the spirit God gave us does not make us timid, but gives us power, love, and self-discipline. And so I have a theory, and I believe that if we can just convince ourselves to be power, love, and self-discipline, then the path forward just becomes easier. It's when we start to operate from fear and anxiety and self-doubt is when we step off the path, and that's when we run into the thorns, and the wild animals and all that kind of stuff. So if we can just, like you said, be bold, then it's a lot more efficient and a lot more enjoyable process, through life.
Yeah. Because and what happens is boldness is like a muscle. It builds from exercise. So I actually, in my book, I have a whole bunch of boldness exercises that are essentially no risk. But what they do is you're uncomfortable doing them. And then you realize nothing bad happened. And you say, wow, I really I was making a big deal out of that.
Yeah.
And so building you want to build your boldness muscle so that when situation presents itself where it does matter, where it is important, as a business person you've always wanted to meet, you have to give a eulogy for your best friend, but you don't like public speaking or you hate public speaking. Guess what? You get one chance to get up and say how you felt about that lost friend.
Right.
And yet will gnaw at you the rest of your life if you don't do it. So you build your boldness muscle for the moments that matter. And there may be 2 moments, or there may be 20 in your life that will be turning points in your life where you either stepped up, spoke up, stood up, or you didn't.
Yeah. Yeah. If you think the cost of being bold is high, wait until you get the bill from regret.
Yeah.
That's powerful.
And that's, people on their deathbed, they've done tons of these surveys and interviews. They ask them, what they regret. They regret the things they didn't do.
Yeah.
The things they didn't say, the things they didn't try. I should have quit that job. I should have asked for that divorce. I should have asked that person to marry me. I should have, I should have started that business. I should have fixed my relationship with my brother instead of not talking to him for 20 years. And now I'm dying.
Right.
They don't regret any of the stuff that they, all the failures and the things they screwed up and they embarrassed themselves. They don't regret any of it. It's like, it's all forgiven or forgotten, or nobody remembers it, except me. And I'm forgetting it too, but I don't care anymore. I care. I wish I had done this. You don't want to, at the end of your life, you don't want to be saying, I wish I had a lot, or I should have. You want to be saying, wow, I left it all on the mat, and I've been in bonus time for a while. That's the life I want. I want to die battered and broken and broke because I push the envelope every minute. I want to live to 150. So I got to stage certain things, and not get too battered too early. But I'm every day I'm making bold moves. I'm making the bolder choice and encouraging people to do the same, because that's where the joy of knowing people and meeting people and helping people and bringing your full self to the world makes all the difference. If you're hiding because you don't think you're worthy, you're depriving the world of your full self. That's actually what's happening.
Right. Yeah.
And so bring it, let it all out. You don't need everyone to love you. In fact, that would be really hard.
Yeah.
Because everybody that you think is amazing has a whole bunch of people who hate them and think they're stupid. So the more people you get to love you, the more there will be the bumper crop of people who hate you.
Yeah.
So you don't worry about it. Figure out who you care about, whose opinion matters to you, and then don't worry about everybody else.
Yeah.
Let them think whatever the heck they want, because they'll have judgments based on nothing. And when you realize that they're judging you with no information, if they're judging you by something they saw you do for 15 seconds, how could they possibly know who you were? It's like when somebody cuts you off when you're driving and you go, "Oh, what an asshole that guy is." Well, technically, he's not an asshole. You don't know him, right? You actually have had no interaction with him, and you don't know why he cut you off. He could have been. He could be racing to work so he doesn't get fired.
Might have a pregnant wife in the back seat and is on the way.
Yeah. Or the love of his life is showing up at the airport, and he can't wait to get there, and he's not thinking about you or anything at all. He's just trying to get there. Right. So, and if you flipped him off, would he go, "Oh, I must be an asshole"? Right? No, he's going to go, "Wow, that guy seemed upset." And so, don't worry about random strangers' opinions. You should have a list of people whose opinions matter to you, and it should be pretty short in my mind.
That's something a lot of people. I'm glad that you've put that out there, because that's something a lot of people struggle with, myself included. Like, I came up, I was very insecure, very self-conscious, no confidence whatsoever for years and years of my life. I was overweight when I was younger. Went through a little bit of a transformation at 18, and that I still had fat kid syndrome. I still have it today. And it's interesting. It's interesting how it doesn't just affect how you interact in one area of your life. It's affecting everything all day. Yeah. And so we always anticipate. The funny thing about fear is that, that's the biggest motivating factor of human behaviors is pain. And we always, our brain exacerbates how painful something will be in anticipation of that, to kind of influence us to avoid it. But then when you actually experience it, it's like, well, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. And it never is. It never is. So like when somebody that reads your book gets the motivation or the inspiration to actually take action on something they've been avoiding for 10 years, and then they look back and say, I don't know why I put that off for 10 years. That was not that bad at all. Right? Now they have a reference to support a whole new belief system moving forward. That says, I wonder what else I'm putting off that I could just do, and it's really not as bad as I think it is. And then they do it again and again. They get momentum, and now it's a whole new future.
Yeah, and if the main problem that they experience is they're hesitating. Because they're going, oh, well, that could hurt. This could go bad. This could be embarrassing. I might fail at that. And the window of opportunity closes. Yeah. And because you hesitated for a year or you hesitated for a moment, depending on the window. But you get tired of, that's mostly what happened to me, is I get really tired of the windows closing on me because I kept hesitating. And then thinking about what I could have said, or and then instead now I just go in and see how it goes. And hesitation is the opportunity killer. And so you got to listen to that voice in your head and say, could that really be true? Is it really going to be? Is that shot? I think about getting an injection of some kind. The dread of the injection is way worse than the injection. My butt has puckered like 6 times thinking about the shot, and then I get it and go like, well, it's over. It's because it's like a second and a half. right? It's like, meanwhile, we go out and we play soccer and we get the crap kicked out of us, right? And we just keep playing. We fall down on our face. You get kicked in the shins and we just keep going. Yeah. So it's like, and it hurts way more than a shot ever hurt. But, it's just shift your perspective and say, there are things to be afraid of, but way less than you thought.
I can attest. I can attest greatly to the philosophy behind the Superbold concept, because there were two major turning points for me in my life. One of them was a coaching conversation with a gentleman who took me through an exercise, and that exercise started to transform some belief systems that I had that I didn't know I had. And I started really doing some conscious daily work on that. And then the other one was that was first. And then the second event that kind of carried it to the next level was the first time I competed, because I was very fearful of judgment and criticism. Like, that's the most scariest thing in the world, right? Mm-hmm. Somebody judging you, think you're a horrible person or something. Because when I was younger, I got, made fun of for being overweight and that kind of stuff. And it was painful.
Yeah. That most crucial time in your life as a teenager, where you're so vulnerable and people are so incredibly cruel because they're trying to feel better about themselves by making you feel worse about yourself. That's the defense mechanism that they have. So it's very traumatic for a lot of people.
Yeah. And I told myself I was going to compete. I had this goal and I was going to compete. And I decided I was going to try to do it on my own, because I was still really self-conscious, and I was going to do it on my own. And then I tried it for a year and I was like, nah, I can't do it. I did it again the second year. It was the same show. And I tried it again the second year. I couldn't do it. Finally, the third year I got pissed off and I was like, I'm hiring a coach. So I hired a coach to help me. Everything changed. I did my first show. I don't even remember. It was like a dream. And then after it was all said and done, looking back, the whole idea of competing was irrelevant. It was like, I don't really care so much about that part, but look at who I became in the process. Look at how disciplined I've become. Look at the level of perseverance that I've developed. And that fueled me to want to do. I was like, I want those qualities that it helped me to develop. I want more of that. And so I competed again, and then again, and then again. And it keeps going. And so I was like, man, this is great. It's hard, sure, but it's a testament to everything that you've said, because once you get momentum, it's a game changer, man. Like, even John C. Maxwell talks about that. Momentum is a game changer. Like, it changes everything. And so if you can just get that, take that first step forward, then, it's a much easier path. And I would also say, people say they believe in something. They say, oh, I believe that would work, or I believe this, or I believe if I did this, then it would do this. But if you don't take action towards its attainment, you don't really believe in it. Because if you really believed in it, you would have already stepped forward.
You would be trying it, right?
Yeah. You would be stepping forward. So you think it really hard. Like, you really, really think it a lot, but you don't yet believe it. Because if it was a belief, then you would have conviction. And that conviction would have you take a step.
But it's, anybody that tells you that if you can think your way to great success, no, it's all and it's success in anything. It doesn't have to be business success in relationships, in success in charitable work, in spiritual life. It's all about action. You can act. I love the expression, you are better off. You're going to do much better trying to act your way into a better way of thinking than you're going to think your way into a better way of acting. Take action.
Say that one more time. Action.
You will be much more successful acting your way to a better way of thinking rather than thinking your way to a better way of acting.
That's good. That's good.
It's huge, because it's like, and it's like I'm saying about boldness is, It's when you're uncomfortable and we're underconfident and you go in anyway and you say, wow, something interesting happened. That, like I'm going to walk up and just tell that person that they have great looking, that's a great looking outfit. And they may be like, what, who are you? Why are you talking to me? You're a stranger. That's the story in your head, right? That's the shy, underconfident story. I do this. I do drive-by compliments as a habit.
Yeah.
Because it's the gift you give everybody.
Yeah.
And you're expecting nothing in return. You're just saying, those glasses look great on you. Or I don't know where you found that suit, but man, it looks great on you.
Yeah.
And you're not looking for anything in return, but you get something in return.
Yeah.
Because they go, really? Oh, thank you. I was wondering, I thought it was kind of a, unusual suit for me to wear, but I felt like, I'm going to try something different.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for that.
Yeah.
And they'll wear that suit constantly now,
I can't even begin. There aren't words to describe. I hope people don't underestimate the how profound that advice is. Like that's very, very deep. And human beings don't do that. I mean, if you can condition that behavior and you just go around projecting out positive energy, all you're going to do is attract the same thing that you're projecting. If you go around judging, I would hallucinate that, and this is just some introspection that people can do. I've done this myself. It's uncomfortable, but just food for thought. If you're constantly walking around thinking that people are judging you and criticizing you, write down how many times a day you judge and criticize others.
And are you right?
Yeah.
How could you possibly, right? That's a great insight because, we walk around. I'll see some guy. It's like, that guy needs to lose weight. Or he's going to die. That woman should never wear her hair that way. It's like we do this all day long. With no information at all. We have an evaluation and a judgment about somebody. So know that we're doing it. So of course, other people are doing it with virtually no information. Yeah. I always remember somebody saying, they met this guy, right? It's this actor. And they said, oh, he's a jerk. He's a total jerk. And I said, well, what happened? Well, he was there with his kids, and I just went up and I just wanted to shake his hand, and he shunned me. And I went, you walked up to him when he was with his kids, right? You should have stayed away from him, right? But that doesn't make him a jerk. That makes him a protective parent because he's constantly protecting his children from paparazzi. Mm-hmm. So you've decided based on your snapshot of him in that second that he's a jerk.
Yeah.
Because he wasn't nice to you.
Yeah.
It's like it's a delusion in reality. But knowing that other people are doing all that, that's why I'm saying you have to discard all of these opinions because they're not based on anything. Yeah. I'm always trying to be a better man, a better person, a better citizen. Yeah. And a better friend.
And being open to the idea that maybe you don't have it all figured out.
Yeah. I mean, none of us is perfect, right? Yeah. So we've never, and that's the thing about being embarrassed is like, are we supposed to be perfect all the time? Why do we have to take on embarrassment? Mm-hmm. Or why can't it just be something that, hey, I guess I am human after all. Mm-hmm. And I stumbled, and hopefully people found it amusing. So, and don't take it on. And life just gets better when you realize people aren't thinking about you anywhere near as much as you think they are. They're thinking about themselves, and if they are thinking about you, they're probably wrong. Yeah. So why worry about it?
Yeah. What was it in my 20s? There's a quote that says, in my 20s, I was worried about what people thought about me. In my 30s, I didn't really care what they thought about me. In my 40s, I realized they were never thinking about me anyway. Now I'd be remiss if I didn't take the opportunity to add this statement. And that is when we're talking about, judgment and criticism and fearing that from other people. And recognizing that it's not our nature to be judgmental, but it is a learned behavior to be judgmental. And that means judging and criticizing yourself just as much as it does other people. So I tend to be a very, very self-critical person. I'm very critical of myself, and it's because I have very high standards of myself. And a lot of people do. And it's not a bad thing unless it defeats you. If it inspires you to move forward and take the next step and continue to make progress, then there's nothing wrong with it. But the moment that you start to want to give up because it's too hard, because it's not perfect, and you might make a mistake, the moment your self-criticism becomes defeating is the moment you need to put that to the side. It's not working for you anymore. It may get you to a point, but it's not going to get you to where you're ultimately trying to get to.
And go back to that word momentum. If it's impeding your momentum, then it's not good for you. If it's impelling your momentum, like if you're saying, I just got to stop eating better. Or start eating better. I eat like a pig. I eat junk all the time. If that's your story and you just beat yourself up constantly, instead of saying, I got to start eating better starting today. Mm-hmm. So I'm not going to eat that thing. I'm going to have the organic thing, or I'm not going to eat. I'm going to eat half the meal instead of the whole meal they gave me. Whatever it is, now you've got momentum towards change rather than you just decided you're not worthy. You're a bad person. You're a failure. You've lost all your momentum because you've become so self-critical. You've given yourself no way out.
Right. Yeah. I can tell we could spend all day talking about that, but I do want to get on. TruBlu Social Smiles. This is your newest project. You're the CEO, and for those that aren't familiar with TruBlu. TruBlu is a partner company of Fortune Management. It is a buying platform for private practitioners across the country. If you look at the landscape that we're doing business in, you've got large conglomerates that are getting reimbursements from insurance companies that are 15 to 20% higher than private practice owners, and dental supplies and equipment at 15 to 20% less. So it's an imbalanced game, right? The rules are not bent in the private practitioner's favor. So it is because they have volume. They've got leverage. It's the Walmart principle. So what TruBlu has done is created a unique platform with exclusive service offerings like Dentsply Sirona, Mandelbaum Barrett, Profi 2020, Oracare, Arthur Marshall. I mean, the list goes on. Virtually any service.
It's a huge thing with Patterson Dental and supply.
Patterson's another really big part. Yeah, I forgot about that. Those are all exclusive relationships. So you can't tap into those resources through any other platform, similar platform. So and TruBlu Social Smiles is a newly launched service offering on that platform. So I did want to give you an opportunity to go into a little bit of detail, because I know that you've got an extensive marketing background. You have a wealth of knowledge in that area. And I was really intrigued when I started to learn about this, because it is definitely something very different than what's available.
Yeah, well, what I concluded as I was finishing Becoming Remarkable, and I started to talk about the importance of video testimonials. This is 6 years ago now. But it was very hard to do, and you had to set it up, and to get it on your website was a challenge, and you had to bring the patient in, would do a video shoot, and you felt like you had to do hair and makeup and lighting and all of this stuff and edit it and then get it on your website, and your webmaster had, everybody's charging you everything, and you got to get the patients to go along with it and come in for an afternoon or something like that. And I thought, but this is a powerful medium. And what's happened over time is people have started, because of the way social media is, and now people are making videos all the time. What I discovered last year, is that testimonial that a patient makes themselves on a phone just talking for 30 or 40 seconds, not edited, not produced, not polished, just real and authentic. And as we say in Hollywood, just one take. That's the most believable and persuasive form of marketing there is, because it is real. There's nothing prepared or rehearsed or edited about it. And I thought this is what dentists need to start capitalizing on, because this takes word of mouth and makes it permanent. It makes it by making it digital, it makes it permanent. And now you can use it everywhere. And what happened is TruBlu Social Smiles is a software platform that was created to streamline this whole process, to make it easy for the patient to record a video right there on their phone, share it easily on their social media, and then instantly it becomes part of the practice library. So now the practice has all of these videos. They can put them on their website, and TruBlu Social Smiles has a widget we put right on your website so that straight from your dashboard, you can add and delete videos. You don't have to talk to your webmaster. You can change the videos every day if you wanted to. And you've got this library of them that you can now download. And now this gives you social media content. It gives you content, which is what everybody's saying is like, I don't have enough social media content. Now, where am I going to get all of this stuff? Now, 3 or 4 videos a week of patient testimonials. That's huge for your Facebook, your Instagram, your Twitter, your TikTok. And it's all impacting the website. People gravitate towards videos now. You'll see that. And Facebook and Instagram promote videos. They share those much more than they would share something with a picture, and way more than you would share with they share with a text. So you're giving social media what it wants. You're giving Google what it wants, because Google wants video and it wants ever-changing content. And now you can put it on a YouTube channel. You can put it in your Google profile. And the other thing I say is, show it in a morning huddle. Show the team what people are saying about you and the practice. And it's an inspiring way to start the day. And then it'll motivate the team to say, look, we got to get more of these testimonials. We're giving people a chance to express appreciation. And that's really what you're doing, because there are hundreds of patients that really appreciate the change you've made in their life, that they have a dentist that they like and that they trust, and that they've had sometimes transformational treatment done. You're giving them the chance to express that. You benefit, sure, but they get to help you and they get to offer that appreciation, and people want to do it. And so this whole software platform is designed to streamline that, make it as easy as possible, take as little of your time as possible, make it easy for the patient, and then just get an abundance of these videos and put them to maximum use. Because we are coming into a time where people are slowing down their spending, especially on the bigger stuff. And so now's the time to step up your practice marketing. And the beauty of using a video testimonial is every place that I just mentioned is free. Your website, it's free to put the video on. YouTube, free. Facebook and Instagram, free. Your Google profile, free. And it's going out to all these people, and it's searchable and shareable and likable and permanent.
Yeah.
So I couldn't be more excited about this. This to me is the next wave of marketing. And I'm so excited to be able to help doctors do this and practices take full advantage of this, particularly now when they may be wondering, how do I get marketing to work? How do I get greater case acceptance? Imagine, just one final thought. Imagine you just presented a $20,000 case and the person wants to go home and think about it and talk to their spouse about it. You send them an email with a video of a patient who did exactly the same procedure.
Right.
And they show that to their husband. And the person says, I should have done these implants 10 years ago, but I'm so glad I did them with Dr. Robinson, because she's amazing. And the technology she used was amazing. And it's changed the way I eat and the way I look. And I'm so grateful to her.
Yeah. And for the folks,
what's that going to do to the case acceptance?
Yeah. And for the folks that hear that no judgment on anybody's perspective, but for the folks that hear that and they think that approach is too invasive, what I can tell you is what's the result that you're after is to get the patient into care, to have a transformational experience for a patient, have them be very happy with the outcome. You're confident in the quality of your clinical skill. And so if that gets them across the finish line to complete treatment, now you've got one more raving fan that can go out there and say, hey, I was anxious about the exact same thing. And so it requires what Fred was talking about in his book, being bold, stepping out of your comfort zone a little bit and doing something that you haven't done in the past can make all the difference in the world.
I remind dentists about this because it's so true. Big cases brag. If you've done implants on somebody, full set of veneers, they're going to talk about how great you are and the difference it's made in their life. If all you're doing is cleaning their teeth, they'll rave about your hygienist.
Yeah.
But you've impacted them. The last thing I want to say is just remind dentists, patients don't have buyer's remorse with dentistry. Mm-hmm. Nobody comes back and says, I wish I hadn't done that root canal. They're extremely happy that they did it. Mm-hmm. They didn't enjoy going through it, but it doesn't matter. They're with the result. They're happy with the Invisalign, with sleep apnea treatment, with veneers, with implants. Never are you going to hear buyer's remorse. That says you have something amazing to sell, because people have buyer's remorse on everything from a wristwatch to a house. But they don't have it about dentistry. That's how great what you do is.
Fred, so if people wanted to learn more about TruBlu Social Smiles, they can go to TruBluDirect.com. Is that right? And they'll
you can just go straight to TruBluSocialSmiles.com. It's TRUBLU Social Smiles. I have the domain spelled TRUEBLUE too. So just in case you did that, it would still go to the right website. But yeah, go there, schedule a demo, and I'll walk you through how easy it is to implement and get you started.
Excellent. And then if they wanted to order a copy of your book, I think I need to Venmo you. We ordered a big box of your books.
I know that's really why I'm on this, is so I can hit you up for the check.
Brittany's reminded me a couple of times. She's like, I think you need to pay Fred. We got that box of books in, but I've got a big stack of them over here, and I got about 12 of them right there in another box. I give them away.
Yeah. So Superbold is it's on Amazon, and it's hardcover, Audible, and Kindle. So whatever format you absorb in, and it's me reading the book, so I'll be in your head. And if you wanted Becoming Remarkable or Everything is Marketing, the best place to order those is on fredjoyal.com.
Very good.
They come much faster.
Excellent.
Amazon's really slow with those books for some reason.
Yeah. Fred, I'm so grateful for you taking the time to impart some of your wisdom on us. I'm really, really appreciative. I want to be respectful of your time. I carried you a little longer than I intended to, but I know there's a lot of value in your insight. So I hope I know everybody will get a lot out of it. So I hope we can do this again soon and catch up and see maybe what your next book coming out will be.
Yeah, always a pleasure, John. Thank you. We could have gone another hour, no doubt. So
all right. I hope everybody has a great day. And Fred, I'll look forward to seeing you at the next F50.
Yep. Take care. Bye-bye.